the Model Minorities podcast. We are here bringing you our first show with our very first guest.
Yeah, excited.
Yeah, he's a pretty amazing dude. He has a lot of accolades behind him. He's lived maybe 3 different lives.
Possibly. Yeah.
I'm Sam Lee, and
My name is Jay.
And my name is Gary Kubo.
excellent. Welcome, Gary. Thank you for coming down, taking time out to sit down with us.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on the first show.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
It's an honor for us because you're a super interesting guest. Where do we start?
I know, man.
Right? Where do we start? I mean, how about early years? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Rosemead, California.
Mhm.
I'm an only child, so
Got
early,
all the love.
yeah.
All the love.
Early on, I guess I should say what inspired me is I was picked on a lot as a child. So
Oh.
I was inspired not to be like more of an introvert, but kind of a movement towards like proving to myself that I was good enough. And
Yeah.
then what I found for myself is skateboarding. And skateboarding, I would say, saved me because the neighborhood we grew up in was not necessarily the best. So it grounded me. It kept me focused, kept me in school. And it was a dream to get shop, factory sponsored, and it actually came through.
Vision Streetwear.
Vision
I
Streetwear,
know that very well.
Yes.
I'm actually wearing this shirt because.
Oh, Mike McGill.
Yeah, on purpose.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Tell us about that journey to skating. Because when I was young, that's all I did.
Yeah. So in 1984, right after Back to the Future,
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys all know the skateboarding phenomenon happened and the BMX stuff, and then a friend of mine had a skateboard, a cheapy old Kryptonic skateboard, and I started riding and I got hooked. So
What was the first trick you ever did? It has
probably
to be the
kick turns,
ollie.
ollie.
You gotta learn how to
teacher?
jump. I was a fake. I was a pretender.
Oh.
I just carry the board. I never ride it.
Really?
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
yeah, so for my birthday, I begged my parents to take me to a main bike shop in Alhambra. Bought the first Hammerhead Hosoi skateboard.
Oh,
And
that
after
was your first.
Yeah.
I was telling you
Yep.
when we were talking about it, that's the first pro skateboard that I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
My buddy Toke was riding it. He was going like across the parking lot, and I was like, "What is that dude doing?" And he came over and he just started talking about. It was yellow and black, and he was so proud of it. But yeah,
Yeah, I had a white one with pink grip tape and pink copers and pink rails. So, kind of weird white and pink, but got that.
You're repping that today
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah,
Childhood,
white
he
pink
keeps
shirt.
it real. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so,
your color.
Yep, pink and white. So, fortunately, during that era was about 85, 86, Pipeline Skate Park out here in Upland was still open. So we were fortunate enough to go there. And
How did you get there as a kid? Your parents took you to these parks?
my parents originally, but we were fortunate enough that I met friends during just street skating.
Yeah.
An older gentleman named Bill Dorr. He was like 70 years old
Yeah.
and still skating. And he was like an icon of
What?
the industry. Yeah.
7D.
70. Yeah. So
Wow.
he kind of took me under his wing and started taking me to the park. He saw the passion I had. So
let's. I want to talk about your parents though. So your parents, did they support you in your skateboard ventures and
in the
take you
beginning,
to the park?
yeah, they did. But in the beginning, no, they're like, you know what? You got to study, typical.
And it's a different era back then.
It is. It's,
Yeah.
Typical Asian family. Study, Japanese school, piano, basketball, typical deal. So at first, I don't think they didn't accept it, but they just didn't understand it. So
Yeah.
skateboarding was still in its early era in the 84s because
Oh yeah.
it was big in the 70s and then it kind of died and then it came back. So
But the skateboarding in the 70s were those little plastic boards, right?
Correct.
And they're just cruising
Yep.
down Venice.
Oh, yes.
I had one of those boards too.
Did you have one of
Yeah,
them?
yeah. My dad ran over it after like first week of having it, and it was
On
done.
purpose?
I'm pretty sure it was on purpose.
Yeah.
It's like Jay's not studying.
Yep. We called them banana boards back then.
Yeah,
right? The Stacy Peralta days,
Oh.
the Tony Alva days. So
Oh, yeah.
that died away, but then it came back in the 80s,
Came
and
strong,
it just boomed. It was,
Dogtown?
it was great. So we fortunately were able to go to Upland Skate Park and skate, and the biggest fear was dropping into the Combi Bowl. So every time we look at it, we're like, well, one day. Finally, I said, screw it, I'm going to do it.
Today's
Do
the
it.
day.
And first time I did it, I fell, got a hipper. then I kept, driven. So I said,
Did you have the full helmet?
You have to, yeah.
got it, right?
Yeah, it's a concrete pool.
Yeah,
so
you're
it's
gonna
very,
die.
for anybody that knew that skated, was fortunate enough to skate the original combi pool in Upland, knows how slippery it was. So it, and it's concrete. So when you fall, it hurts.
So you were skating back then with, literally the pros of today.
Actually, it was even before. The pros big then were like Lester Kasai was
I remember
a
Lester.
regular. Yeah, Reese Simpson, the Alba brothers.
Alba?
Steve and Mickey Alba were local, so we would just sit there and watch them. Like, wow, this is
so
cool.
sick. Yeah.
So that progressed, and then I ended up building my own half pipe in my parents' backyard.
Oh, wow.
How big was it?
The first one I built was 6 foot tall,
Okay.
8 feet wide, and
Cool.
mind you, I was only like 12 years old when I built this.
What? So your parents had to help you then?
No, I actually did it myself.
All by yourself?
What about sourcing the materials?
Well, as far as that, I saved all my Christmas money and whatever allowance money I had, and my dad would take me to the local lumberyard, and I'd buy everything, and I had to kind of learn how to draw templates out,
Oh,
and
wow.
how to sift the ground so it's flat. So I learned
Awesome.
early, because I had this dream of getting factory sponsored, because watching the Bones Brigade every morning, being inspired. I said the only way to do that is to build my own ramp and practice.
Right.
So that progressed into like a 10-foot high, 12-foot wide ramp that I built myself, and then eventually progressed into a 12-foot tall, 20-foot wide ramp. And then I practiced every day, and eventually I worked my way up to shop sponsored, and then I got to factory sponsored.
Wow, that's where dedication.
Yeah, so it was a dream. So I'd wake up every morning like 6 o'clock in the morning before school, get up,
That's amazing.
whatever I can do to build, put a couple 2x4s up on the ramp. Little by little, I gradually built it because obviously we had school. So by 7:40, I would have to walk down and take the bus to to go to school. So eventually, it got done. And I remember the first day it got
That's dedication.
it's dedication. Even during like Thanksgiving, I'd hurry up, go to my parents or families, eat lunch or dinner, and then rush back, and then I'd be the only one working on the ramp.
Oh
So
my
I'm this little 12-year-old kid building
Wow.
this gigantic ramp half pipe in the backyard, and I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
There's legal issues that I had to deal with too. So
Yeah.
I had to go to the city, Temple City sheriffs, and luckily there was a deputy named Deputy Hill there that kind of helped me. He goes, you know what, you need to draft a consent, have all your neighbors sign it because there's like noise issues too.
Yeah.
Plus there's legal issues as far as how big the ramp could be, how far away it needs to be from the walls, and how tall it can be. So as a 12-year-old kid, I had to learn all this.
Wow.
So yeah, I did it. I practiced. I made a promise to myself that I'll do just good enough in high school where I didn't have to go to summer school because I wanted to practice.
Yeah.
And then as I did better and better, shop sponsored, I met a gentleman
What
named
shop?
It was Dennison's Bike Shop in Whittier.
And
That was
how old were you when you got your first sponsor?
I was 1980, so that was 14.
Wow.
Yeah, and
So 2 years of skating, you got sponsored by a shop.
yeah.
That's dope.
Well,
Yeah.
it was tough, but I think what inspired me is back in the day, there was a guy named Danny Way, which I'm sure everybody's
Yep.
familiar with. At 14, they came out with the not the Bones Brigade, I believe it's either Future Primitive or one of the videos.
Right.
And there's this
Well, it
14-year-old.
was Search for Animal Chin, wasn't
It
that
was after that.
after that?
But there was this 14-year-old kid that was just like ripping it, doing McTwists and doing 360
Tony
varials.
Hawk.
Had like Tony Hawk at another level. And this, yeah,
Because of the age factor too.
yeah, Danny Way, like anybody that knows skateboard, Danny Way paved the way. I
Yeah.
mean, the crazy height and the insane tricks and the obstacles is pretty much from Danny Way.
Whatever happened to him? How come he didn't get the exposure and publicity that Tony Hawk and Hosoi got?
Danny did. Danny, I think, is more like he turned into more like the stunts type of guy. Like he jumped the Great Wall of China on a skateboard.
Oh, man.
Yeah, if you watch the video, it's like absolutely nuts. It's insane enough to think to roll in on the mega ramp. Roll in. I mean, that thing's like 100-something feet tall.
I'm
Crazy.
surprised
Yeah.
China even let him do that.
Yeah, so
Wow.
he worked with, I'm sure, a couple sponsors like DC and whoever he's representing, and they built this gigantic ramp, and he literally did a 360 right over the whole.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
That's
it's
insane.
this was done like years ago, but it's still inspiring. So
Was he the one that was in the movie? Oh no, I think that was Tony Hawk. The what was that, Cubing the Globe? Remember that?
Gleaming the Cube. Yeah,
Cube.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
Dyslexic.
so
Close enough. Close enough.
yeah, but of course, much recognition have to give to Tony. I mean, Tony kind of set the pace in the beginning for everybody, and then Danny came out of nowhere, and they're like, "Who's this kid?"
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to see him when I was skating at Mike McGill Skate Park in Carlsbad. I was there one day, and I'm like, "Oh, dude, that's Danny Way." So as a young kid, you're inspired, and there's this guy doing head height stalefish McTwist when nobody even knew what it was. So it's like, wow, this is if he can do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
So I went home, practiced, finally got the McTwist, dialed in where I can do it every run. Yeah. So so I entered my first contest, I won, and then a gentleman named Josh Swindell, which is a pro skateboarder for H Street, came up to me at one of the sessions in Cal State LA called Lip Slide Skate Park. He goes, hey, I want you to meet somebody. There's a guy named Tori down here with long hair, looks like a surfer dude. When you get a chance, go talk to him. I didn't know anything about it. So I'm okay. So I'm like, Tori, meet Gary. This is Tori. So I met him. He's like, hey, what are you doing next week? Just skating, practicing. He said, why don't you come down? You know where Santa Ana is, right? Come down here and we want you to talk to somebody here at Vision. I'm like, wow, okay, well, whatever. So I drive down there and, walk in this huge facility in Santa Ana. And he's like, okay, well, here's the office, chill. And then, there's somebody that wants to talk to you. I'm like, okay, whatever. So come walking in. I'm like, oh, shit, that's Brad Dorfman. Everybody skating back then knew who Brad Dorfman. He was the founder of Vision.
Is Brad? Okay.
So if you remember this long rocker hair looking dude.
Are you a skater? He said everybody that skates knows.
Yeah.
No, I was a skater, but I didn't know who owned Vision.
Yeah. So like a rocker looking dude. So he sits down and he's like, you know what? Tori told me a lot about you. Mark Oblo told me, these are the team managers for the skate team. Right. He's welcome to the team. I'm like, wow, this is surreal.
Just
dude.
like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
amazing.
a dream come true. You're a little kid watching these 8th Street videos in the morning, Bones Brigade, and just going, one day I'm going to do that. And it's like, wow, this came true. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So after
great story.
Yeah. So I think that's where some of the entrepreneurship came up, thinking that you got to make your sacrifices, but if you want it that bad and you persist, it's going to happen.
Yeah. That's amazing. You bring up a good point. It's a good transition into who you are.
Correct.
It started as a young child. I mean, getting up early in the morning, knowing what you want, focus, and just building something with your own two hands, literally.
Yep.
And you continued that in your life.
Correct.
After you quit skating, I mean, you were sponsored for how long?
It was only between 90 and 91. And from there, I'm sure most people know, in the early 90s, skateboarding industry kind of tanked.
It did. Yeah.
A lot of us got dropped from the teams. A lot of people that were going to turn pro that we thought were going to be like the greatest quit. Yeah. And either, went to different types of careers or ended up owning some of the companies that were like the clothing companies and the shoe companies. Right. And then we got into racing. So it was first a hobby, like the Honda scene. It was big.
Let's talk about that.
So
everybody was into that.
Yeah.
Right?
You were too, right?
I was too.
Oh, yeah. So in the beginning, for graduation, my parents bought me a Honda Civic DX 92 hatchback.
So just to put that's the lowest model, isn't it?
That's the EK9, right? The EK9 model?
EG.
Oh, EG6.
Yeah.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a DX. It was automatic. So, of course, everybody made fun of me. Oh, automatic.
Oh, it was automatic.
So
I kind of hiccuped there, right?
Automatic.
And a DX for all that. So a close friend of mine that I grew up with named Eric Valdez convinced me to put a dry nitro system on it because it just came out. And it was like a 100 shot. And back then, we didn't know anything about it. Yeah, the DX engines are really weak.
I'm surprised you're still here.
Yeah, so it felt great. I mean, car flew, but maybe after the third try, we saw a bunch of smoke come on, kick the rods. We're like, oh damn, what the hell happened? We didn't know. We were just starting. Mm-hmm. So that transitioned into where the car sat. Mind you, it was a brand new car.
Right.
So it sat for about almost a year, and then as we were racing, we became friends with a gentleman named Miles Batista. He owned a company called Revhard.
Well, let's slow it down a little bit. So when you say racing, back in the day, in the 90s, I'm thinking illegal street races,
you got it.
Ontario, Long Beach.
Mm-hmm.
You were definitely part of that scene, right?
Never raced, but just to hang out. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we kind of...
That's what we all say. Never race, just to hang out.
I was never racing.
Yeah. Spectator in my car.
I was too chicken. Plus, my car was blown up. So we kind of just hang out, right? So
it was a cool scene back then.
It was
so fun.
I think it helped a lot of troubled individuals transition into something that became like a life where they can make a living.
Oh yeah.
Let's paint a picture for whoever's listening about the scene and what it looked like back then in the early days. I mean, this is really the right when it started merging, where you were literally building your own cars in your garage, and they were all imports from Japan.
Yep,
right?
correct.
Yeah. So let's dive into that a little bit. Were you tinkering with cars back then too, early on?
Actually, I just got into. I took auto shop at high school just to get credits to pass.
Oh, so it wasn't because you were interested in cars.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Right after skateboarding, I kind of had like a hiatus in life. Like, what am I going to do next? And a good friend of mine, Ben Shapiro, that I went to school with for many years, said, "Hey, you want to go to the street races?" I'm like, "What's that all about?" So he took me to Silmar, and after that, I'm like, wow.
Silmar.
Yeah, well, this is cool.
Silmar.
So got hooked on it, and then he said, "Oh, you have a Civic. Well, you can do this, and you can do this." And, that was kind of the start. Went from exhaust and wheels, and then my friend Eric got me to put nitrous, then it blew up. And then a friend of mine,
Not a good friend.
Yeah, a close friend, we consider family now, Miles Batista, said that, you know what? In Japan, there's a twin cam version of this engine that exists that has like 160 horsepower stock.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't exist here because back then, we had nothing.
Yeah.
There was no 94 GSR stuff, nothing.
Nothing.
Because I have the engine from Japan, but you're going to have to figure out how to make it run. So in early 92s, I started literally making my own motor mounts and putting this engine in, and we had no computer or,
Were you the first one to do this?
Yes. Yeah.
You were.
Because,
That is amazing.
Yeah. So, a lot of it's hard because we didn't have like the internet to document everything.
Right.
But as I was
Just
going
all trial and error.
Yeah, there was no computers. After maybe 3 or 4 years after 92, the 94 GSR came out.
Yeah.
Right.
And everything would kind of plug and play. Like motor mounts, you just use off the Integra, put it on, everything drops in, ECU snap. We didn't have any of that. So I had to literally use the DX computer just to get it running. And then as soon as the 92 GSR came out, I bought the ECU and finally got everything running.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I had to make my own pedal assembly. We didn't have hydraulic trannies back then. So I had to like retrofit a cable transmission, make my own pedal assembly, get it to work.
So from a class in high school to now swapping engines out, you learned everything hands on.
Yeah, I had to.
No.
It was
no internet.
Yeah.
No internet.
No book. Oh, my.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was
blowing.
just a guess. So a friend of mine says, "You know what? Since you're this far in," my good friend Robert Kwan says, "I'll buy you the wire harness from 92 GSR. And we'll just see if it works." So it was a gamble.
Literally, yeah.
We didn't know. There's no books on anything, so we literally were just pinning different pins on the connector to hopefully get this car running, and it ran, and that's kind of the start.
What was the quarter mile on that?
When it first started, probably 16s,
Yeah.
and then I ended up meeting some more people in the industry. A gentleman named Herman Chen owned a company called Drag Turbos. It was big back in the day for the Honda stuff.
Uh-huh.
And he had really nice kits made, but I didn't have the money to buy it. So, you know what? I'm going to make my own exhaust manifold, my own intercooler, and I'm going to try to buy the. Yeah. If you have a dream. Yeah, well, I didn't have the money for that. So basically, I just bought the turbo from him, and everything else I had to make. So we got that running, and it worked out pretty good because nobody had a do-over cam with a turbo on it back then. So it's like, we had no dyno. We didn't really dyno back then.
Yeah.
So
did you even have gauges to measure like PSI or anything?
We did. Yeah,
Okay.
we did.
Okay.
So it was back then. It was like 14 pounds was the most.
Okay.
So got this car together, and my friend Eric again convinced me, "Hey, there's a thing called Battle of Imports. You ought to run the car." I'm like, well, I don't want to. And
Eric has a lot of good advice.
Yeah. and I, to be honest, I sucked in driving. So he's like, "I'll drive the car." So he says, "I'll tell you what. There's a shop that I work with called Promotion Auto Accessories.
Yeah.
I'll see if they can help you out."
Wait, so this is so early on. So Battle of the Imports, this was what year? Maybe was it like the first or second or third?
90. Actually, Battle Imports, I think happened like maybe pre-90s, like late 80s. But this was like one of the first successive events that happened, and this was like 90. 95 or 96.
So, do you know Frank Choi?
Very well.
Okay.
Yeah, we've
You
known
guys are
Frank
probably
and Mike
buddies.
and Thomas very well.
Okay.
So we enter the car, and next thing you know, it became like the second fastest car of the whole event. We're like, what
That's
the
Oh my
crazy.
And it was
God.
street driven. So it was the
Yeah.
first street. We literally drove it to the event.
Street
Eric,
legal.
yeah.
You don't even need
well,
to get it towed
I
down.
wouldn't say street legal, but yeah, it went out, and back
Yeah.
then
You didn't have a touring car or a bus to ship it over.
we literally
Yeah.
threw
You
everything
drove
in
it
the
there.
car, took
Yeah.
the seats out, and ran the car. Nobody had done that before. Everybody
Yeah.
would trailer the cars there.
Because everyone, I mean, you're competing against some big money players too.
Yeah, back then you had Miles Batista, Tony Fuchs, you had Archie Matarazzo, all Junior, all the top guys, and we came out and we ran the car, and I remember
guys were you were the underdogs.
big time because
Big time.
nobody even knew who we
No,
were.
yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
showed up in this green, teal, Tahitian green Civic, these big old slicks in the front, 24-inch slicks, which nobody ran back then, and then
You guys knew
Had
what
no-
you were doing, though.
no, we didn't actually. It was just to see what the car would do. We didn't think it was going to run that quick. So without the
And you got
nitrous,
second place.
yeah, it went out, ran like a 1220, and then
Ooh.
Eric had put the nitrous back on it, but we put a wet system, and then we put a 50 shot, and then it ran 1177.
Oh gosh.
And we're like, what the hell? So
Wow.
everyone's going crazy, like, no way, you guys drove this car, and it's the second
I'm getting
fastest car.
chills right now.
Yeah,
because
no, it was so surreal.
I remember this, okay, when I was young, because I wasn't a racer myself. But
Okay.
I did have a Honda Civic, and it was lowered, and it had exhaust, and it had the air
Yeah.
filter. And I was a wannabe racer, right? But
Like I was a wannabe skater.
yeah, exactly.
You had the stuff.
We wanted it. I wanted it. It was cool. My
Yeah.
friends all had lowered vehicles, and we
Right.
all raced in our own way in our neighborhoods. But we heard about this, as something like this is so explosive that people, what?
Yeah.
A little Honda doing 11s,
Yeah.
and he swapped out the motor.
Yeah.
And I remember this clearly because it was kind of like something that we all talked about for a long time.
Yeah.
And then 30 years later, I'm dating myself, but 20 years later, I meet the dude that did it.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm the first. I would say we're second generation.
Yeah.
We had the other guys like Tony Fuchs, Miles Batista that kind of set the pace. Before that, there was another generation like in the 80s and stuff.
in
But
Japan?
here, actually,
here.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I would say
Into the Hondas?
yes,
Oh.
So
that stuff I don't know about, the
Oh,
history of that.
those-
but
yeah.
I remember Battle,
correct.
and I remember that.
Yeah, so those are. I'm not going to make a claim. Those are the original guys. If it
Oh,
wasn't for
good.
them, we wouldn't have a.
I'm glad
scene
you
was
shared
totally
that. I didn't know that because
I'm not gonna
No,
claim
good.
something. Yeah,
No, because I guess
They're
what
the-
Battle did
Mhm.
was get it out to the masses.
Yes.
If you weren't in the culture of actually racing and part of a team, you wouldn't hear about this.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Frank Choi, I revolutionized that to a point where it became a possibility for many people to open shops,
Right.
modify cars for a living, and it was great for a long
Yeah,
time.
there was a
And-
huge explosion after
Oh,
that.
man, it
In
was-
Roland Heights,
yeah,
Hacienda.
Hacienda, the Valley,
Yeah.
right? San
Oh,
Diego,
my
Northern
goodness.
Cali. So
California in itself is a big car.
Yeah.
it
state.
is.
Yeah,
it
it really
is.
is.
So it boomed all the way to the mid states, East Coast. As we started racing out of state, we became friends with people like in Florida. So it just exponentially blew up.
So with that, I mean, as you were racing and you were winning, Battle and all that, who was driving your car the entire time? Was it Eric?
Well, the first time was Eric, and
Yeah.
then I met Lisa
Oh,
in
yeah.
like '94, and then back then she was into racing, but she was into the water cooled VW stuff, and then she liked driving the Honda because it was turbo. She was, oh wow, this is cool. So one day, there's so many things that happened in her life, but we moved to Santa Barbara to open up a shop.
This is when you guys were already married? Just
yes,
early on?
yeah, because
Oh,
we
you
got
guys-
married in like '90s. We
Yeah.
got married pretty early, so we opened up a shop to do like auto accessories and mods.
Sure.
And one day we were sitting down at dinner. We're like, you know what? There's no females in the industry.
Right.
What if we just quit everything we're doing right now, like all our jobs, everything, and just take a shot and see what happens?
And this was your idea, or it was Lisa's idea?
It was both.
Okay.
It was me, Lisa, and one of our best friends, Robert Kwan. Rest in peace. He
You guys
just passed.
always have a friend that kind of gets into you guys and then tells you
Yeah.
guys to.
So we were
That's
just
awesome.
sitting. Yeah, we're sitting
Yeah.
there at our apartment in Santa Barbara, kind of by UCSB. We're like, you know what? Yeah, screw it. What are we gonna lose? We're only in our 20s. So we quit everything, all our jobs, everything, and we literally. I mean, this is the honest, true story too. Yeah, me and Lisa were sharing clothes just so we could save money, and our budget was like $6 a day to buy Del Taco.
Wow!
And we drove a Toyota truck. Wow. With three of us, and I'm sitting in the middle with the shifter in between my legs. Lisa driving.
With the shifter in between.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's a small little Toyota truck.
Talk about sitting bitch.
Yeah. So we would drive from Santa Barbara to Rosemead every day to work, and then work on the car. And it was just a big dream.
For the listeners out there, if you guys are a little ahead of the game or you know racing, he is talking about Lisa Kubo, Lisa Kubo Racing, right?
Yes, correct.
National champion. A couple times, I think.
4-time champion.
4-time champion.
Yep.
And that's your wife.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why she has your last name. What's her maiden name?
Wise.
Wise.
Yes.
Her father, I think. A
wise woman.
I think her father was in racing as well, right?
Yeah. Lisa actually grew up around racing. Uh-huh. Her parents raced Irwindale, the original Irwindale track.
Which is right.
Correct.
Right
so
from 605.
We got pictures from like when she was 2 weeks old with a helmet. And her dad going to the local street races.
Oh, wow.
So she was kind of brought into racing. Plus her family, her Uncle Mike worked on Kenny Bernstein's Top Fuel Dragster team for many years. So she was very immersed in racing since she was born.
So when you guys met, was it love at first sight?
I would say so, because we had a mutual friend, which was a waitress that worked at a Carol's.
Always a friend.
Yeah.
Always
these guys.
At a Carol's restaurant in San Gabriel, and I'm sure all the locals know that SGV Carol's right there by Montebello Town Center.
Uh-huh.
And we met, and we're like, oh, where'd you just come from? Oh, we just came from Beach and Imperial. I'm like, oh, shit, we just came from Beach and Imperial as well.
Oh, so this was late night after the races.
Late night.
Everyone goes out for a bite. Yeah.
Yeah, so I met her, and then she was into racing, and she was part of a funny that we brought up Zero Gravity. This is a race team called Zero Gravity.
Oh, wow.
So she was part of that group, and I hung out with the Street Image guys as another race team. Right. So we kind of started hanging out, and then we started going to the street races, and it was just like an instant click.
Man, talk about soulmate. That's
crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm fortunate because
And you guys have been together for how long now? Check this out.
We've been together since 1994.
Yeah.
Married since 96.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Lisa, she's sweet. Shout out to Lisa. She's I work with her, and when she talks about Gary here, man, she's like, he's my best friend.
Yeah.
So you guys never fight. You guys don't.
Yeah,
we see a sparkle in her eyes.
Yeah.
So it's like the hearts are flying out.
Yeah.
All these little
it's truly when you know you found the right person, it's beyond just affectionate love. It's just a different level where I totally trust in whatever she wants to do. I just feel like that energy path is the same. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, we don't have kids or anything, but we're so involved with our goals. It's like our goals are always lined up. Like she wanted to do the racing, and it was just a dream.
Yeah.
So it's funny. All of the prospect dreams that we had, somebody always kind of took us under their wing. So it's just like with racing. We went to Bakersfield, and
it's like an angel's been looking out for you the whole entire time.
Absolutely.
And brought you up. Yeah.
So our friend John Hong says, you know what? I'm building a car. I want to build it, and I want you to drive it first, Lisa. She's like, really? Okay. So we went to Bakersfield. The car had problems, but she ran it, and then she got this little award that says the Rising Star Award. So I'm like, interesting.
So you saw right there that there was potential.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
What a perfect team, though, because you're highly mechanical, and she's
we're both driven.
Fearless.
Very driven. Yeah. So she started going to events, and the first Battle of Imports event that she entered, she got runner-up against like the best of the best, against Ed Bergenholtz. Wow. So we're like, wow, this could be something big. And all the females started getting like, no way.
Did you guys pick up a sponsor right away? Because she was like really one of a kind, right?
We got a lot of help from a shop called Pro Import.
Uh-huh.
John, Viet Lam, I'm sure people in the industry know. If it wasn't for John and Viet Lam.
Where was that shop?
In Santa Ana.
Santa Ana.
Yeah. So if it wasn't for them, we honestly wouldn't be where we are. So they helped us.
Does that shop still exist today?
It doesn't. Yeah, it's no longer around. But they paid for like the car to get done, like the roll cage. That's awesome. They paid for like the slicks on the car. We don't have money for the slicks. Okay, I'll buy them.
Can you imagine that, Jay?
Amazing.
Yeah,
someone just comes along.
Yeah, we're like, wow.
The shop owner's like, you need that? I'll pay for that.
Yeah,
you need that? I'll pay for that.
Like we needed a car to drive around because a Toyota truck broke down. He's like, I have a navigator that I've been renting. Just use it for another 2 weeks. I'm like, dude, are you sure?
Wowzer.
So yeah, that kind of started it, and then we went to our first just balls to the walls event in Texas. It was just like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just go. We got a lot of help from a company called Extrude Home. They were another big factor of why we made it big. Ed Melendez and the Melendez family says, you know what? We'll pay for some of the funds for you to go, go to that event and try it out. And it was a series called IDRC, very first series. We go there, we win the event.
What does that stand for? IDRC?
International Drag Racing. I forgot to see, but
no, that's okay.
But now it was Mike Ferrara and Peter Hippolito. They ran the deal, and we go to the event, we win. We're like, oh no way, we won, dude! What the hell? It's like, we're up on top end going, dude. We just came here like as underdogs,
right? And
we won. And then towards the end of the event, this lady comes by and goes, "Here's my business card. We want to talk to you guys." We're like, oh. Wow. So a lady named Juanita Gardner, she's like, I work with Nitto Tires, and next week, when you guys are back in town, please stop by. We're out here in like La Mirada area. Okay, whatever. So we go by and, visit. We thought they're just going to kind of give us an idea about maybe helping us out with tires and stuff. We're like, what the hell?
Welcome to the team.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just like that.
Yeah, we talked to the president, Tomo. He's all right. Well, we want to work with you guys. We want you to win the championship like this. Yeah, we're like, whoa.
That's heavy.
They're like, what do you guys need? We're like, well, I mean, we just started. This is our first event. We won. We need a trailer. We need a truck.
We need everything.
Yeah, we borrowed everything. People were nice enough to lend it to us. We had friends like the Durst family. They lent us their truck. The trailer was lent to us by Extrude Home. We need everything. We need a golf cart. All right, well, here's a check. Buy everything you need. We're like,
how much was the check? Do you remember?
It was close to $100,000. I mean, back then it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we had to
buy a lot of money.
Yeah, so we had to buy a brand new truck, brand new trailer. We had to build enough engines to do a whole series because it was that first official series that was like points in all around the country. So we had to think, we're going to make it work. And since we quit our jobs, if we don't do well enough, what other incomes do we have?
So was that money also to live on as well? Rent money, food money, living expenses as well?
And travel money and unforeseen like breakage, which fortunately we rarely had problems with the engine because we were very on top of everything. So we had to literally go to the events to win to make a living. So it's kind of a lot of pressure.
Just do or die every event.
Every event.
That you said something interesting that Lisa told me while we were hanging out the other day. You have a nickname. You have a couple nicknames, but one of them she told me about was I think it's Tick Tick.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Tick Tick is I'm sure from the racing world, people know I like use the torque wrench for everything, like every little thing, even spark plugs, because I'm always afraid that if I don't,
you got to get it perfect, right?
Yeah, it'll break.
Perfect, yeah.
And man, we can't make the next round, so everything would be torqued, like everything, like every nut and bolt in the car.
Such an awesome
and
nickname.
you would actually go around and double check, triple check on other people's jobs, right?
Yeah, which is probably not the best at times because you lose the trust, but I always had in my mind, we got in drag racing, you get one chance.
Yes.
So it could be a dumb broken bolt and then you lose a round.
Yeah.
And someone you love is driving the car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Plus we kind of depended on that to make an income because we had no other
Everything
income.
is reliant
We had no
on
money from parents. We had nothing. So it was a dream. It was like, okay, is make it or break it.
That's another interesting thing I want to clarify. What were your parents thinking at this point while you were racing?
Oh, they didn't agree. Get a real job. It's like, when are you going to make money? And as soon as they saw the check come, they're like, whoa. And then they see us on ESPN. They're like, whoa. And they're like, oh, now you're making money. The checks are coming in. Championship check was like $30,000. Plus every event we won was like $8,000. So like, oh wow, this is actually a business. So
it's working.
And now, they were on board with it after.
They were more excited for us, and they're like, wow, okay, what event are you going to go next? So we're going to Puerto Rico in the wintertime, and I would say Puerto Rico is probably one of the most memorable, most passionate people we've ever met in racing.
Tell us about that, because I know that just in the short conversation we had, you love that place.
Oh man, Puerto Rico, I'll tell you, is the most passionate, appreciative people that we've met. Mm-hmm. There's other countries that we've gone to. Oh, Puerto Rico's not really a country; it's a U.S. province. But everybody there, for what lack they have resources, they'll literally build these full tube chassis road cage cars inside in their port of the house. We're like, where'd you build the car? Right here. We're like, what? And there's this lady. Yeah, we're like, holy crap, are you kidding me? So very inspiring.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
During the wintertime, it's very festive there. There's these activities like where all the guys will go to all their other guys' friends' house, and the mom would cook food and they would eat, and then they'd go to the next family's house and eat. So it's very passionate, happy people. So we got hooked like right away.
Yeah.
But
You even mentioned that you'd live there.
I
You want to
could.
live there.
Yeah, because it's the happiness is real.
You still have friends out there?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've never been there yet, but
Yeah.
just from the little that you're telling me, it sounds like like the dream place.
It is,
Where everyone's
and-
just family. The
Yeah.
whole place just seems like family.
it really is, and like I noticed with other countries where the resources may not be as plentiful as here, you got that drive to do even better. Because I mean, if you're going to race out here in the U.S., I mean, you got to be pretty good, right? With any sport.
Yeah.
Even like we have friends in Brazil, same thing. It's like, why do they do so well in so many sports and racing? And it's because they're driven, because they don't have all the resources we do.
You don't.
Like even with MMA, it's like, why do they? Oh, it's like a common denominator, right?
Yep.
They all come and they dominate. It's because they don't have what
Anything
they need
else.
there. Yeah. So if they want to come here and have a dream, they got to be so damn good that
It's that underdog mentality.
exactly.
You know you're a little behind, so you work 10 times harder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's very motivating. I
Yep.
mean, you got people like in skateboard, Bob Burnquist. Nobody knew who he was.
Yep.
Yeah, he came out and just dominated. But he's originally from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Speaks perfect English,
Mhm.
Portuguese. A very good ambassador for skateboarding. But
Yep.
just things like that is motivating, because if he could do it with nothing,
Right.
why can't we? I mean, we're born all the same beings, right?
So were there a lot of Asians when you went out there, Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico, believe it or not, in San Juan there is, and they
There is.
speak like
Oh, really?
fluent Spanish.
Yeah.
A lot of
Wow.
Chinese.
Okay.
So I was
Lot
like,
of
wow, I gotta brush up on my Spanish.
Oh. And then out there as I guess a Japanese American, did you feel any, I guess, like tension or racism or anything like that?
Not whatsoever.
Nothing?
I just came back from Panama as well. A friend of mine is a very big car enthusiast that needed somebody to build his Hellcat engine. So I went out there and
Dodge.
yeah, Dodge. So I went there, and my first pre-impressions of the country was, oh, it's probably third world. It's probably dangerous. As soon as I landed, I'm like, wow, this place is incredible.
Brazil?
Actually, Panama.
Panama.
I'm like, wow, this place is nice. I mean, yeah, it's not, I would say most of the parts aren't as updated as here in the U.S., but
Of course.
everybody's happy. Everybody's nice.
A lot of-
Everybody greeted us.
A lot of Asians there too, right?
I didn't see too many in Panama,
Oh,
but
okay.
a lot of different Latin countries. Like you get Venezuelans,
Yep.
Costa Ricans, the Panamanians, some Brazilians. So it's like kind of like a melting pot, but in the Latin culture, and
Oh,
everybody
wow.
is so nice there. It's like everybody is saying good morning. It's so different. I didn't see any homeless there, which my friend said, what do you see here that you
crazy.
don't at home? And he went to school here in Michigan to get his business degree. I'm like, I don't know. I can't do this. Do you see any homeless? I'm like, no. I'm like, oh, wow.
Now that you say.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive of a country. I had a totally different perspective when I left.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I could live here.
So what does it mean?
Everywhere you go, I can live
Well,
here.
yeah, I mean, I think the average person there makes like $700 a month, because it's U.S. currency there,
Mhm.
and they live, they have their own
wait,
house.
A month, you
A
say.
month, yeah, that's it.
Wow.
And
So
they,
we're doing something wrong.
well, I wouldn't say it's just it's different here, right? And it's so advanced that just
We got to pay for it.
yeah, the cost of living. So
But I mean, that really says, like, it's not really money that buys
it's
the
not,
happiness.
and they're so happy
They
there. Even
mentioned
though
that.
the waitresses make nothing, they're happy to get $1.60 tip. And most of the waitresses are from like Venezuela, because Venezuela is having a lot of problems economically.
Yep.
So they'll literally go up to Panama to work, and they're so happy. They're like open till 11 o'clock at night, open 7 in the morning, and they're all smiles, happy. They try to speak English, and I asked one of the girls, I'm like, how'd you learn to speak English? Oh, I learned myself, Duolingo. I'm like, wow, how driven are
Just
you?
from
right?
working,
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
happy. Everybody's happy there. So I'm like, wow, it's like I have this good positive vibe,
That's great.
Yeah, so it's kind of opened my eyes. Like, okay, well,
Is Lisa open to moving out to a South American country?
yeah, we're always wherever we can make like a positive effect, or like a cause or whatever we're doing. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of, I guess you can say, the compromise. We made a choice in life where we are able to move if we needed to, like at moment's notice, whereas maybe some people can't because maybe kids or something. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the compromise we made.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask a little earlier, but just in regards to you feeling racism in different parts of the world, you said no. What about here growing up as a Japanese American? Did you feel anything?
No, believe it or not, no. I've been
roast
pretty
beef back
fortunate.
then was very different from what it is now.
It is. It was very different.
How was it?
Once in a while, you get the slant-eyed jokes or something, but
Yeah.
for the most part, no. It was very. LA was very accepted. We had majority of my friends were Latinos. We had a lot of Caucasian friends. Japanese, there were a few, but not very many. So majority of the people I went to school is all
What school did you go to?
Shore High School.
Sure.
Yeah, in
Oh,
Montebello. Yeah.
Montebello. A lot of. I thought there was a lot of Japanese
Used
that
to
went
be.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they all kind of. Majority of them were in the Gardena area, but it
Yes.
seems like they're all gone too. So,
yeah, that's true. Torrance, Gardena.
Torrance,
Yeah,
Gardena.
yeah.
So, I fortunately never had a problem with any
Yeah,
race
cool.
issues. Even traveling, we were on the road for 8 months of a year for like 15 years straight. No matter what state we went to, mind you, my wife's Caucasian, I'm Japanese. I never ever had a problem, even in the smallest little towns where people would say, "Oh, you're gonna have a problem." Never did.
Were you?
Never.
Well, did you? Were you this buff? When
That's why.
that's why no one had a problem.
No, actually, no.
Don't mess with that guy over there.
Were
don't
you
mess
a
with
skinny
her.
kid?
Yeah, actually, in high school, that's probably why I got picked a lot when I was little. Not so much in high school.
Okay.
But I was probably like 117 pounds in high
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if all you're doing is making skateboard ramps and building engines, your muscles just gonna just blow up.
yeah, definitely your forearms. And working on cars, wrenches and stuff. So,
Right on.
but
torque
I
wrench
mean,
action.
we were pleasantly surprised because there's always this stigma. Oh well, this state has racial problems, and we've been to every state in the U.S. Every single one.
Everyone.
And we've stayed there for at least a month or more.
What about the South?
Never had a problem.
Never had a problem.
Never. And we've been through Kansas, Ohio, New Jersey, the worst areas in New Jersey, worst areas in Indiana. Everyone's, oh, you're going to have a problem. Never did. And we did this for 15 years straight.
Yeah.
So a lot of what's on the news is, I think, blown out of proportion.
Definitely.
So,
I have to agree with that. I think I've been to a few states, not every single one of them.
Mhm.
And I have to say that I'm really proud to be American.
Sure.
And everyone that I've run into or interacted with have been pretty pleasant.
Yeah.
And the only time that I felt a bit of racism in my adulthood, it literally just happened like 2 months ago
oh, wow.
in Laughlin, of all places.
Oh, Laughlin, really?
But Laughlin, if you don't know, is kind of a big casino town,
Yeah.
Yes, it
right?
is.
And
Mhm.
so in the wintertime, all the water sports and stuff like that close down. So all you see are really retired people in these casinos. And I was out there for work. And I woke up in the morning and I was out getting some coffee. And a guy looks over at me. He must be in his 50s. And, he's probably not from Laughlin. I think he's probably from somewhere else out of state.
Mhm.
But he looks over at me and he goes, hey, man, wasn't I talking to you last night? And I was like, oh, no, sir. I don't think I've ever seen you before. He goes, no, it was you over by the slot machines. And I was like, no, I wasn't gambling, nor do I play slot machines. It wasn't me. He goes, you look just like you. And I was like, it wasn't me. I'm sorry. But he goes, you all look alike, though. That's what he said to me.
Oh, my
wow.
God.
But he doubled down on that. And he goes, hey, but you're kind of tall for one of those, huh? I was like, what? But you can tell this was sheer ignorance. It wasn't
Yes.
like
Oh
he
my
was
gosh.
trying to start a fight with me. He really thought he was talking to me last night.
Yeah.
But it wasn't me.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. It is interesting to your point that I've been, Idaho and the Pacific Southwest or Texas. I didn't find anything that remotely close to what happened to me in California.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's more recent.
And it's
'cause-
crazy that it happens at somewhere like California, where it's easy
melting
to say
pot.
that we have like the biggest Asian demographic
Yeah.
here.
Right. But I think it's more the recent because, like, when we were racing, we would stop in small areas like Abilene, Texas, and we'd walk into like a cafe, and they'd first kind of like look at us, but then they, we've never had a comment made, never had bad service, and like I said, we've been through some of the so-called most racist states, never had a problem. So I'm like, maybe what's on the news all the time isn't really what's
Always
going on.
true.
Maybe they're trying to make you believe, or a scare tactic, but we've never had a problem. But in the recent years, I could see, not for our personal experience, but from other people having this prejudice or this preconceived notion that, like, for example, the coronavirus. I mean, everybody Asian
don't
has
get me
it.
started.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. It's like, I'm not even from there. So,
Hey,
right?
Have you looked at how much masks cost now
Oh,
online?
It's a couple $100. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they're just gouging,
Yes.
taking advantage of everybody.
That's messed up.
Yeah, it's just like with some of the medical stuff. Like, it's like cancer patients got to pay $1,000 a month or more
it's
for.
not right.
Yeah, it's not right. And there's other countries that, I don't know if because they don't have the media capabilities, but we don't really hear of illnesses as much. My wife just got back from Antigua to visit and do some work with a lady named Lisa out there for like women empowerment. Sure. And everybody there seemed healthy and happy. We're like, wait a minute, what the hell? What are we doing wrong? They don't have nearly the resources we do, and they primarily eat fruits and stuff. And we're like, why does everybody's skin look so good? What's the difference?
It's the pesticides, it's the stress, it's
or the soil.
smog,
Maybe the soil's more, mineral rich. It's not so depleted. So we're like, wow, it's like maybe we had to kind of look more abroad than just believe everything on the news.
No, I completely agree with that, man.
Yeah, so it's a lot to learn. And the traveling part, which we like, is you learn, because it's one thing seeing, say, West Virginia on the news, and everyone's like, oh, it's this and that. We go west. It's beautiful state. Yeah. Beautiful state. Mm-hmm. Nothing like what all these jokes that people make. Not even close.
I've never been to West Virginia, but
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I heard.
It is.
Super green.
Yeah. Super green. Yeah. You got the water, the lakes and the rivers.
What are the best public school systems in the country, if not the best?
Really? Oh, yeah, I heard.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean, everybody there's pleasant. I mean, we never had a problem. And there's... I'm not going to name the jokes, but, people typically make West Virginian jokes. I didn't really see any of that. So I'm like, wow, it's the people that don't travel that just,
that's
hear about it.
Yeah, they just hear somebody ranting and oh, well, that must be true.
And just copy.
It regurgitates, and then it gets worse because someone will add something else, and then pretty soon it's
like that game Telephone.
Yeah. It's not even, now it's so blown out of proportion, it's not even true.
Yeah, and I do think that's what's happening with the coronavirus. But even with that, one day we're going to wake up, maybe, and it might be right on our front door. Did you hear about that lady in Koreatown, a stewardess?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And she is I think she was at like 4 different Korean restaurants out there in Koreatown. But so it's coming.
They're like completely closed down. Mm-hmm. They're desanitizing.
Really?
Disinfecting the whole place.
So it's kind of interesting. Is it like, do they know this was coming, or is it? Some people say it's fabricated. So
that's the news right now, because she was a stewardess, I think, for Korean Air.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, well, from what I'm hearing, I don't know myself either, but they're saying that, there's claims that she went to these restaurants, and some people are saying like, no, you never really went there. Oh. And now these restaurants are actually taking effect because whether it's actually true or not. Whether it's true or not, nobody wants to go there anymore.
Wow.
I wonder if it was a competitor.
It may have been.
That made rumors.
It could be.
Like Kim's Barbecue said, hey, Parks Barbecue. She went to Parks Barbecue. I saw her there.
And then nobody really knows, honestly, how it's transmitted. There's speculations.
That's the scary part.
Yeah, like, if I shook his hand, I'm going to get corona. Well, how do you know?
Yeah.
We don't know the truth. So.
There was this article that people thought that the coronavirus...
We're laughing already. Talking about viruses now.
You know what I'm going to say?
I know what you're going to say.
They thought it was contracted from drinking Corona.
Oh my! Are you serious? Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Possible if you share drinks, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Man, but if that's the case, I for sure have it, because I probably had like 6 bottles of those this week.
Yeah, but I think it's just probably blown out. Yeah, of course, if it comes here and it becomes a pandemic, but they said it's going to become a pandemic, which at what point does it become a pandemic? X amount of people, or
I think continents. Continents.
Well, it is supposedly in various continents.
It is,
but we don't see blood lab work. We it's just all hearsay, right?
They said they were going to have some of those affected by that virus go into Irvine, and there was this big stink about that. Did you guys hear about that?
Costa Mesa
too.
Yeah. And I don't understand why it would be Costa Mesa, because that area is just filled with more people, and
it's kind of strange. It's like, why did they pick there?
Yeah, why there?
Yeah, Why, like, and then people, the city, the community there says the same thing.
Yeah.
Why us?
I would too if they said, "Hey, they're gonna come here." No way. Why here?
But it's interesting. I guess the world's rapidly changing. I mean, I'm sure you guys are good. Growing up when we were younger, we didn't see any of this kind of propaganda or
Nothing.
all the high-speed chases and people not happy. It was nothing like this, right? So it was, I would say, we always talk about it. If we can always go back to the mid-'80s, that was probably the best time of our life.
That was probably the best time for music as well.
Yep.
Shout out to the 80s.
Oh, yep. all the alternative, new wave.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, as a kid, I remember growing up, we didn't have any of this.
Nothing. So that's interesting. So what's different? I think it's the internet. I think the internet is making us crazy.
It's fabricated news or exponentially blown up out of proportion news that, people.
My mom and her friends, she's in her 70s, okay? There's something like for the longest time, she would tell me anything she reads that her friends are circling amongst them is truth, right? They get it off the internet.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And then next month is something else.
It's something
completely,
else.
Totally
don't do
different.
this.
Yeah.
And then don't do that. And then watch out for this. And I'm just
yeah.
like, dude, it's just fear-mongering.
It is. It's like a movement. So it's like there's these people that probably want to start a rumor or like a,
so sad how it's so easy to do that.
Yeah, because it's an easy way to get attention, and it's in a way marketing. I should say.
Yeah, because they say any attention is good.
Yeah, so you could negatively market yourself. Yet it could be maybe profitable means for them, or
like trolls on the internet.
Oh, so internet's good, but it's bad.
Yeah.
We didn't have any of that. We barely had pagers.
Yeah.
So, but
interesting.
But yeah, it's interesting. It's I would say the world's so volatile now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like when we were out of high school. Okay, well, get a degree and then in college and the door's open right there for you. Well, it's not like that anymore because the world's changing so quick. A lot of automation going on. So
automation.
We tell a lot of our younger or maybe centennials or younger friends, open your eyes and. Yes, education is very important, but do other things too, because by the time you graduate, it may change so much that
that job or that industry might not even be there.
Underemployment, right? Underemployment. Yeah. So what if your field's not needed? What if it's automated? You spend hundreds of thousands of dollars going to school, and then now you're going to be sitting at home going, what am I going to do next?
Exactly.
And then you still got that student loan. So we're trying to preach do other things, kind of pay attention to what's going on.
Diversify.
Yeah, diversify both, because it's not like when we were younger. Our parents, that's, I think, the most difficult part is our parents are so used to that, so they kind of push that towards not only us, but our grandkids.
Yeah.
But it's like, look, wake up. It's not like that anymore. Yeah. I mean, just because you get
the world is different. You
get a degree doesn't mean you're going to get a career in that field. And if you do,
there's people talking right now against going to college. Like, it's not a good investment. There's people.
I hear it all the time now.
All the time.
Yeah. I mean, if the education was free, I would say, but it's not, and it's a huge investment.
That's the main reason why.
They say the average college graduate, when they start at 18 or 20, it takes them till 40 to pay off the loan.
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to buy a house?
It's a big sham.
Right. I mean, well, it's tough. I would say
this is blasphemy if my mom heard this. If my parents heard this, it's like, what are you guys talking about?
Education's very important, but you said, diversify.
Yeah.
Because like it says, who knows 10 years from now, everything might be digital.
So on that point, what are you into now? You did the pro skating. Amazing.
Well, not pro skating, but
you were sponsored.
Sponsored.
So I consider that pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. You went headfirst into being one of the OGs in my I guess when I look back, you're one of the OGs in the street scene, streetcar scene, and I think you do a little bit of weightlifting, and you're creating something right now.
Yeah, so
a movement.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Basically, when we were professionally racing in 2005, Lisa kind of took a break from racing, and I joined with a team. Chris Rado owned a pretty prominent team in the import scene professionally for Toyota. So he got me to join his team, and I did that for about 9 years. We found as many events as we did probably 40 events a year, sometimes 3 events in different states per week. So like in 2005-06, I'm like, man, we got to be in shape. Because mind you, we're on the road all year long. We don't get to come home. And it's like Monday through Sunday work. So we're like, wow, if we don't get in shape, there's no way we can do this. So
If you're on the road that much, you either become very unhealthy and overweight because you're always eating fast food, or you go the other direction.
I mean, most of the guys are. Yeah, I mean, you're working 16 hours a day, and driving, so you're not. I wouldn't say overweight, but just the physical,
demand.
just physical demands just burns you out. So
even back then, fitness was something that you guys started so that you guys could continue your car.
To show up at every event, because again, when you're factory sponsored by, say, Toyota, you got like a performance clause. It's not like you just show up and whatever, the car blew up. Well, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
If you don't perform or qualify or reach a certain agreed upon performance, you're gonna pay like 20 grand back to them. So it's like, okay, well, we have to do good. We're professional. Fees. We're not just showing up to, say, Georgia and just, all right, well, whatever happens. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So we have to perform. We have to look professional. So it became very demanding, not physically, but mentally as well. So if you're physically down, it mentally puts you down. So a good friend of mine, Eric Plavani, which was on the team as well, we says, you know what, let's just start working out. And then we got hooked on it and more and hooked on it. And it's been almost 16, 17 years that it's become a daily part of my life now.
Yeah.
And
you work out every day.
Pretty much. And then that.
Come on, Sam, look at him. Of course he works out every day.
I can't tell, guys.
No, I'm not,
Work out morning or night?
I like working out at night because I get a few meals in. I try doing the morning, but just don't have the.
What about Lisa?
Lisa, pretty versatile. She used to work out a lot in the morning.
Yeah.
But with work, she works out at night. She just a go-getter.
Jay, what about you?
I used to love working out at nighttime.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But ever since I joined Zero Gravity, I was saying before, they had a morning session and it would start at training was supposed to start at 8, but our call time was at let's say 7, or a lot of us would just come in earlier just to get in an hour of cardio before. And I had to really reprogram myself, and lifting such heavy weight at 7, 8 in the morning, man, just to even think about that was so dreadful.
Yeah,
I'm getting tired just thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, Zero Gravity is one of the premier teams for men's physique. If you want to do good, if you don't have Ryan, it's pretty difficult to do. I mean, they are one of the top teams.
Yeah, and they're getting even bigger now. Yes. They're getting recognized internationally, and they're making a team out in China. I know,
the Chinese
Ryan and
guys.
Taylor, they go there a few times a year now.
Unbelievable. The Chinese athletes have just stepped it up. I mean, unbelievable conditioning, and the Korean ones too. Yeah, it's like, wow, where are these guys coming from?
Bodybuilding and weightlifting and all that's getting pretty big in Korea.
Yeah, I think the first country the first Asian country that really picked up in the beginning was probably Japan.
Yeah.
And then Hideki was super big.
Yeah, Hidetada, Yamagishi.
Yeah.
I mean.
But now it's it's global.
Yeah, global. In India, it's big. In the Middle East, it's big. So now it's pushed to such a level that it's almost like you got to make a decision. It's like, okay, this is attainable. This is not. Right. And what are you willing to do it? And obviously, it's more of a decision. There's a lot of compromise. It's you competed yourself, so it's not like, okay, I just go to the gym and eat clean. It's way beyond that now. Yeah. It's
a totally different thing.
It is a science. And I would say bodybuilding is probably one of the hardest sports, because any other sport you could come in not well conditioned. As long as you win the event, you win. Yeah. But in bodybuilding, you could screw up peak week, or the day before you can spill over. Well, there went all your prep time for 20 weeks.
What spillover?
Like when you if you time, or say you're hormonally not ideal and you carb up and all of a sudden you look all smooth. Well, in bodybuilding, that's not acceptable.
Like the day before, you were let's say shredded, and then all of a sudden you eat this one wrong meal, or a few grams of carbs too much, or one sip of water too much,
intense.
And the next day you just look like you haven't even started working out.
And literally 6 months of training gone, and you prepared all this time to peak. There's no other sport that you have to physically look good as well as perform.
Yeah.
You're posing. If your posing's off, you're done.
Yeah. So why are you doing this again?
Good question.
It's
an addiction?
I like the science behind training and prepping, because it's very similar to tuning a car. Everything's on data. Oh, yeah. So we look at data graphs. Just like, for example,
an awesome comparison.
Yeah, nutrition and fitness, we deal with macros. Well, tuning a car, we deal with air, fuel, and timing. It's the same thing. So by adjusting one of those components, you get a different result. Well, same thing with nutrition. You might go, oh, let's change the macros. Let's drop the carbs a little bit, add a little more protein, and then you'll take a picture a week later and, oh, wow, that worked. Well, same thing tuning a car. Well, let's add a little more timing, richen it up, see what happens. So it's very similar.
That's such a great analogy.
Yeah, so the data is very addicting.
Yeah.
And I'm also...
So data-driven, kind of working out. I guess if you're a pro, you have to be data-driven.
You have to be a stickler of those things.
You have to. And then it's not just nutrition. It's like training, like overtraining. So you got to keep that in track because it's not just like, okay, more becomes less eventually because your body's under a system called homeostasis. So everything you do, it's trying to go against it because it doesn't want to be lean and muscular.
My body's always in homeostasis.
Oh, yeah. So that's, I think, comparing professional racing to bodybuilding is so difficult because you can get a cookie cutter program from somebody and go, oh, well, worked good for this athlete. It will probably fail for you because
everybody's different.
Everybody's so different. I mean, it goes down to blood tests. Oh, you're overtrained. Well, they're not. This guy can take 900 grams of carbs during carb week. This guy can only take 200.
So that's what drives you.
Yes.
I mean, you're obviously a very bright individual. What you appreciate about things, and this I see the pattern in your life. A lot of it has to do with being challenged. It's like you love a challenge. You love that data. You love figuring things out and tinkering with stuff.
Correct.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty.
Part of the business is to also implement. I'm starting this right now, but implement some of the technology that we use on race cars into fitness equipment. I can't divulge because my IP attorney says not to say much.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, but
we'll talk more about it. Let's have you back.
I think it'll. There's similar devices out there, but more to a level where everybody can track, information. I think it would help, eliminate some of the assumptions or these standardized, like BMI, for example. It's like like a bodybuilder with BMI be like in the 30s. Well,
or overweight.
That means you're obese. But I mean, there's no way this guy's obese. He's sub 10% body fat. How's he obese? Yeah. So trying to get away from the standardized methods or 1 rep max. Well, that doesn't apply to everybody, right? Yeah. It's like, there's always a standard of 10 reps will get you 1 rep max. But if you have real data, it could be very customized. So that's kind of the area that, not to divulge everything.
I'm excited for you. It piqued my interest when you first told me about it. And I think it's definitely one of the best things I've heard in regards to that.
Yeah. So giving back to
relation.
Giving back to industry to push to another level where it's more accurate, where I see a big void right now. So
you are actively pursuing to become a pro bodybuilder.
Well, I wouldn't say
no.
That's anybody's dream.
Yeah.
Getting a pro card is extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
What makes it difficult? Is it just the training?
Well, that too. But I think the biggest thing when Ryan was telling us is there's way more people, like quote unquote, trying to be a professional bodybuilder by obtaining their pro card,
correct,
versus any other sports out there.
Yep.
Yeah. So the percentage of people that actually try and obtain their pro card is far less than any other sports.
Agree. And then now they're issuing a lot less pro cards. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, 7 or 8 people got it. It's like down to like 1 or 2. And it's like, once you get your pro card, now you got to remember you're going up against the world's best.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have somebody might, come from another country that you've never heard about. They show up to the show, pre-qualifying, and, you're like, whoa, dude, like, we're done. It's the only sport. Over. Yeah. You show up at the show, you're like, oh, there's just no way, dude. Yeah. Oh, the level of conditioning and the symmetry, it's just, all right, well, do the best you can. And we always, me and my wife talk, as long as you come in better every show, you made progress.
Yeah, that's why I always say bodybuilding is just a competition against
yourself. Yeah, because you can't compete against someone that's been competing for 10 years. They got way more, dialed in on their prep protocol.
What about roids or human growth hormones?
To be honest, I think if your diet and your training program isn't up to par, you could take all the drugs you want. It's still not going to make a difference because the bread and butter is your health in your body, right? So maybe 10%, 15% benefit. I mean, I'm sure most A lot of high-level athletes will attest to that.
That's the one thing that I have, I guess, like a negative emotion towards, like the not even just the steroid or HGH, but just the supplement industry right now.
Correct.
And because social media marketing is so big, they really publicize it as if you take this, then you will get this. But it doesn't even. It's like a 1%
there's no quick
difference.
fix, right?
There is
no such.
and
If it were that easy,
yeah,
like really,
everybody had the
everybody
pro
would
core.
have- yeah.
And there's number of associations that have tested natural athletes that would really put a challenge to a fully enhanced athlete at any time.
Mhm.
And that really goes to show, like, wow, if you really know what you're doing, this natural guy that for sure we know is natural, there's no way this enhanced guy, just the conditioning levels, not even close.
So in my early 20s, I worked out a little bit.
Mhm.
And back then, it was always, you had to have enough protein. I think it was double your weight in protein or something like that. That was the formula. And then there was creatine was on the market. You guys remember that?
Yep, still is.
Oh, is it still? So I was going to ask, because I'm not well versed in any of the supplements or whatnot. What's the big thing now? What's everyone?
Well, I haven't told you, but I'm actually a kinesiology exercise science major.
Oh,
and for 2 years, I used to work at a human performance research lab where we test a lot of different, I guess, like the training methods. We used to have a lot of contracts with different, let's say, health suppliers, whether they're from like actual wearable devices or even supplement companies. We would do a lot of different testings. And creatine is one of those things that I'm a firm believer in. If you take any supplement before you get even protein, protein is not necessary if you get it from your food sources.
Sure,
absolutely.
But let's say some like vitamins, minerals that you can't get from food sources, I would tell them to take that fish oil. Creatine, you can get it from red meat as well, but it's not the best idea to eat that much red meat to supplement the creatine.
Right.
So my honest, like just from all the research, data driven from all the research articles, just as long as you get 5 grams of creatine per day,
Correct.
you don't need to cycle on off. There's no loading, there's nothing like that.
So, but creatine. So creatine is still on the market and it's
Yeah.
good.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
I mean it's the basic bread and butter of APT, which
Ooh.
is adenosine triphosphate.
Mhm.
So for short bursts of energy, it uses the creatine, the phosphate creatine molecule to make that.
What does
reaction.
it do? It volumizes your muscles.
Well,
That's how it was sold.
One of the good side effects, I should say, but
Okay.
it's to provide the primary energy of what they call APT.
Mhm.
Okay.
So as you train, your APT depletes.
Mhm.
So this is where when you're doing like heavy sets, all of a sudden you're, oh, dude, I can't do anymore. Well, you depleted your ATP. So it's got to restore. The creatine helps you restore that ATP a lot quicker.
Okay.
So
Got it.
creatine is more of a energy source, but its good side effect is, I guess,
Volumizes your muscles.
intramuscular water retention. Some say there's intra like skin like water retention, but I think that's more related to like maybe improper micronutrients or diet.
I totally agree. So we did a whole research on it because everyone was saying, "Oh, I took creatine. I'm so bloated. I'm holding so much water."
Yeah.
There is nothing. If you break down how creatine works
Yeah,
and just
the science.
the ATP, just the science, pure science, there's nothing in it that's gonna actually make you, have water
Bloated.
retention.
Yeah,
Okay.
intracellular. It's all intramuscular.
Yeah.
So a lot of people like, oh, well, I take this and water. Well, how's your diet?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of reactive foods that cause water retention because your
Sure.
body's inflamed. And even
Salt is one of them.
Salt.
yeah, salt or just a balance of salt and potassium. If that's off, you're going to retain water.
So Lisa was also telling me, she talks a lot about you, by the way. So she was telling me that you are, what did she say? You're going to get certified in something in regards to the health sciences.
Oh, NASM CPT. Yeah. So NASM CPT, NASM. I am already certified, but I think the more accredited certification would be NASM.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm
Very
I'm
good.
yeah,
I would recommend that too.
I'm in the
NASM.
process. NASM's very
You know about that, Jay?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
It's very elaborate too. So it's
What is NASM? I don't know anything about this stuff. So
it's like National Association of Sports
Sports medicine.
medicine.
Yeah. So
Okay,
it's
got it.
very unlike other certifications. The study course is very scientifically elaborate.
Very.
So yeah, you got to know the science, like bioenergetics. You got to know the science behind it. You got to know what each muscle does.
Mhm.
You got to know all the motions, and it's not just okay. Well, pick up a barbell. What are you doing? It's very. I think it's very necessary for today's coaches because it's so. Like I said, we're talking. The level of competition is so intense now that if you want to peak well, if you don't know what you're doing, there's just the beach body isn't good enough anymore.
Beach body.
Yeah, that's how it started in men's physique. It was like just a board shorts and a beach body. Now the guys are wow, they're like
semi-bodybuilders. They look as big as like Arnold was back when he was
Arnold.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a competition called the Arnold. I just found out about
Arnold
Classic.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's an invite. Yeah, it's an invite deal.
Invite.
Yeah, it's very so bodybuilding has excelled so high because I used to be a fan as a teenager too, like when Mike Matarazzo and all those guys were big, and it was competitive then, but now it's at such an elite level. Even the girls are coming in so conditioned. It's like, wow, how do they do that? They're like literally feathered muscles and striations everywhere and perfect symmetry. And
you said striations.
Oh, the muscle. That means when you're that lean, you actually see
the fibers,
the muscle fibers, which directions are going. Yeah, it's insane.
What's funny is I remember when I started working out, my mom. I just get obsessed with stuff. So I'd buy all these men's magazines for working out, right, and taking the creatine. Oh yeah. My mom sat me down. She goes, "Sam, I know you like working out," but with her Korean accent, and she goes, "Don't get like this." She thought it was crazy, but even if I worked hard day and night, I couldn't look like this. Like, that's what she didn't realize. But she was like, "Don't do this." But I remember that. Yeah. But that's what you guys are striving for, to lean and have striations.
Well, for show, because I think year round probably not as healthy.
For sure.
And to be
competition.
For men to be sub 8% body fat year round is probably not the healthiest. It's pretty beyond what normal people probably can even mentally. From experience, towards maybe 2 weeks out, you're probably praying to God the show's tomorrow and it's over.
So Lisa just had a show recently as well, and I remember because we were working together and she couldn't eat certain things. But she was going crazy because she was starving all day.
Yeah. Yep.
But she did pretty well on the show.
Yeah, she got second. We're still very novice. I mean, we're learning, obviously. She competes in a class called Figure. And Figure, I would say in the last 2 years, is the level of competition is ramped up so intensely that now we got to go home and go, okay, well, we got to do our homework. I mean, do we want to compete at the level or do we not? So it changes the dynamics of the whole prep and
what you guys do is you go up and you pose. Is that what you guys are doing?
Correct. You have a posing routine, but at the same time, not only you got to hold your poses, but you got to kind of figure out your weak spots. Like you might have a quad on one side that is not as good as the other, so you got to remember which way to stand. And mind you, it's carpet there. Okay. There's carpet and there's a line, so for the women wearing heels, it's hard. You might trip. If you trip, you're pretty much done.
Done, right?
And then you got tape where you got to stop. Mm-hmm. So the audience doesn't see this. They just think, oh, they're just walking. But no, go up on the stage. You'll see. There's actually, and then you got to stay posed for quite a long time. If you
probably all the way out there, you're like,
and then when you're after you do your routine, you're waiting on the side. You're kind of posing and looking at the judges. So mind you, you're staying flexed for a pretty long time without cramping.
You're sweating on stage.
Oh, you're shaking.
Yeah, you're shaking.
Yeah,
because everyone thinks you're just standing and stuff. But man, it's tough.
So the reason I ask is we were talking before we started filming about someone I just recently met. We were out and about, and I met Rachel Gambalo, and she's I think, let me see if I can get this right. She is the heavyweight lifting champion for women over 40. Oh, wow. And she was super impressive. She's a model. She's a trainer. She has her own little CrossFit gym as well. And so when I met her, I just kind of categorized bodybuilding, weightlifting, CrossFit, strongman. They're the ones who shared with me about the Arnold or Arnold Classic, as you guys say, invitation only. But it's all different, right?
It is, yeah. And there's classes like fitness where you have to do a routine, like an athletic routine and pose. So that's even more difficult, like an IFBB. So it's like, wow, some of these girls are doing like one-handed push-ups, like planked. And you're like, how the hell are they doing that? Like perfect, like breakdancing style, but push-up. Yeah. And it's like, wow, it's very impressive.
I mean, you you also did this for a little bit, right, Jay?
Oh yes, I did compete. I did 3 shows, but what I did is totally different from all the things that we've been talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I did men's physique, and men's physique was really different back then too. But men's physique pretty much was you don't come out in posing trunks like that. You just come out in beach shorts.
Posing trunks.
You call it posing trunks.
No, I'm laughing because there's a friend of mine who works out a lot, and we used to tease him about his posing trunks. I just remembered that. All right.
He worked out in his posing trunks?
No. We just making fun of, kind of busting balls.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, but what I did is, you just wanted to. It was the ideal beach body. Yeah. So our category, you don't go up under and you're like flexing. It's really different now because they make it a little bit more flexible. Where
do you have to do the oil and the tanning?
You do.
And that alone is science because depending how it's applied, and you got the lights above you.
Was there a particular brand that you prefer?
So it's crazy because somebody had told me, it's like, hey, you got to get before you go, you gotta get a tan. I was like, why do I have to get a tan if I'm gonna put on a fake tan that day? He's like, no, you have to do it because if you don't have the right pH balance, even if you don't have the right pH balance and they put a spray tan, you start turning green or orange and things like that. Yeah, I was
like, an alien.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll go get a tan and things like that. But even on my first show, like I thought on they do it, they tan you so that you look good under the stage light.
Yeah.
But when I stepped outside, like my friends were laughing. I was like, "Wait, what's going on?" And then I found out I'm like super orange. I'm like an Oompa Loompa. Yeah.
Yep. Oompa Loompa.
Yeah.
And then various shows have different lighting, so it's kind of strategy. You go, oh, the lighting here sucks.
Right.
Like some lighting, for the female, all the cellulite shows up, and then you go to another show. Literally a week later, like, oh wow, what happened to the cellulite? But it's the lighting, and then they have to pee in a cup. So mind you, they're naked, getting tan there, and then they got to hold a cup because if you don't pee in a cup and it runs down, well, you got to do it all over again.
Oh.
So it's there's a lot of little. That's why I like it. It's very technical. Even like when they're backstage sitting, like a lot of them will put a duffel bag under their legs to elevate it because they don't want blood rushing down to the legs because then your upper body won't it won't fill out as well. So
you lose the vascular. Like I remember like my first show, like I was out there, I was just barefoot walking around, and Ryan told me to put on some sandals because you don't want your feet to get cold. You're gonna lose your your vascularity. Yeah. And I was like, oh gosh, man, there's so much to this. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's very how should I say addicting. Why do you wear a robe? Oh, you want to keep the body heat because the vascularity goes away because conditioning's everything. You'll literally. And when the lineup walks out, you already know who won. I mean, the morning kind of already has the winner, but you could still overtake that win at the night show. But I mean, there's shows that you clearly know. Oh, well, that person won. They got all the goods, symmetry, size, conditioning, posing spot on. They look confident. You just know. So it's like, okay, well, go home and do your homework, and all you can do is try better. It's
That's awesome.
So difficult. Yeah.
Interesting.
How
are we doing on time, Jay?
We're about like hour 20.
Hour 20. Okay. Yeah, you have time?
Well, of course, yeah. I've made time, fortunately.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So
good. All right. You were going to say something?
Oh, but I know that you want to pursue classic physique, and obviously, I think I'm coming from a different place now because I don't exercise myself. But I think you have, something.
Wow.
I think you have some potential out there.
Well, we'll see. It's it's one thing looking good in clothes, but when you wear,
yeah, of course,
it's so competitive now. Like you look at we go to the shows and look at just the amateurs that aren't even on the first lineup. I mean, usually. You could tell how good competitors depending when they get called out. If they get called out the first, they're top 5.
Yeah.
Or top,
Everyone's just waiting for that first call out.
Yeah. So your goal is to get top call out.
You go there and you and someone.
Yeah. So there's a panel of judges.
Okay.
And then
paint a picture for us because I have no idea.
So there's
Jay's
a panel
got more
of judges,
experience,
and you're in the back room. You're just pumping up, right? You're pumping up the areas that you want to pump up. You're trying to think, like you said, like you want to. Best, you want to show your strong points and you want to hide your weaknesses.
Correct.
So you're trying to think about that. You're trying to, going over your posing. They call you out one by one. You do your little posing routine. You line up at the side when everyone's done. Then the judges, there's like usually a panel of 5 or 4, I forget, but they'll go ahead and call you out in like groups of 5 names at a time.
Yep.
And the first set that's called, they're most likely going to be within the top 5. So everybody's goal in their first show is you just want to get in the top 5.
I see.
You just want your name to be called in the first lineup.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tough because I mean, things could change literally in 20, 30 minutes. You're like, oh, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like smooth now, and too late. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
a lot of pressure.
It's
because you've been working so hard to get to that point. You don't make top 5. What do you do?
Well, I mean,
just come back for the next one.
Well, I always tell everybody, and it's just a reminder to anyone that's really interested in competing. I think competing in itself on your first show is a victory. It's just such a hard thing to do. And one reason why I think
wise words right there.
Yeah, and I think the reason why bodybuilding is the hardest sport is because bodybuilding is 24/7.
It is.
You know, when you're playing basketball, baseball, and you're sleeping at night, you're not necessarily doing anything to improve your.
Right.
But if you're not going to the gym because you're done, but you're at home and you take one extra bite of something that you're not supposed to be eating, right? Or things like that, or you're supposed to do an hour of cardio and you're just so tired and you just want to just do a 30-minute session when you were supposed to do an hour. You're cheating yourself and you cut yourself short. So bodybuilding really is 24/7, especially the closer you get to that competition date and time.
A lot of stress, it sounds like.
It is. It definitely isn't a sport for a minimalist, I would say.
But it fits you perfectly.
Well, because I'm so intrigued.
You've been competing your whole life. It's always been data driven.
Yeah.
Competing in one form or another.
Yeah, but not really yet. I'm definitely gonna. It's just the timing's got to be right because you got to mentally be ready, and the time. When you're on, like Jay would, attest to this. It's all or nothing, and you can't even cheat. A good coach like Ryan will be like, oh, you didn't do your cardio this week. Huh? Mm-hmm. He's like, dude,
he already knew.
Don't
he already knows.
Yeah,
you cheated?
Yeah.
You're smooth. You were dry last week. What happened?
Yeah.
I mean, they just know. They're that good. To get to that level, it's just experience. I mean, you can't even be taught in school. You can know the basic theories on nutrition, but for dialing a person in, it's so individual. You just got to have an eye. You might be like, okay, for you, go eat a fatty burger. Mm-hmm. And the other competitor's like, wait a minute. How come I can't eat a fat? Well, that's him. That's not you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something. Now you piqued my interest when you said fatty burger. So,
oh, you'd be shocked.
What do you eat? Like when you're like getting ready for competition, or what do you eat daily? I know the other day we had sushi. That's okay.
It depends. There are advocates of flexible dieting, which I'm a big advocate of because I think it's more sustainable. Yeah, and then there's others that are more in the traditional, very strict and stringent and regimented, and both work. I think it depends on what you can sustain at a consistent basis. Because
So what'd you eat this morning?
This morning was a higher carb day because I've been on low.
Do you carb cycle?
I just started.
Okay.
To see if I could shake the metabolism a little bit, but Fruity Pebbles.
Fruity Pebbles.
It's an awesome diet.
One of my childhood favorites.
A lot of strawberries because very low in calories. A lot of water, and then these vegan patty burgers that Trader Joe's has. I mean, I love meat. I'm not a vegan, but for stomach wise, it just seems like it's a lot easier to digest.
What about that Beyond Burger? Have either of you guys tried that Beyond Meat yet?
Not yet for me.
Yeah, I might consider. I noticed it's kind of high on fats.
Yeah.
So probably
very high in fats and very high in sodium.
Yeah.
So if you actually ask a lot of doctors and nurses, they actually just say it's better eating meat.
That's what I'm saying.
So since we calorie count, it's tough because every gram of fat is 9 calories. It's double of carbs and proteins. So it's like, okay, I can eat all this fat and I can make it work, but then my allotment or my food budget for the day significantly decreases because if I have a target calorie and I eat a bunch of fats, well, the volume of food is very small.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So then I'm like very hungry throughout the day.
Right.
So I try to balance it out where I can eat a good volume of food, but calorically where it's manageable.
Yeah.
So that's the tricky part.
That is.
Yeah. Where
just trying to fill yourself up just so that you're trying to trick yourself that you're not hungry.
Right. Yeah.
But in reality, you really actually are.
You're starving.
Yeah. So we use like MyFitnessPal app, and whatever we just input. And we're like, okay, well, we still got X amount of protein we could still eat, or we're still really low in carbs. So like on a day where you want to eat a lot of carbs, I kind of spread it out. That way, I have carbs throughout the day, and it kind of fools my satiety. If not, you're like, oh my god, I need it, and then you start binging and you start eating more than you need to.
Are you starving right now?
Luckily, I'm not.
You're not. Okay.
Yeah, luckily. But yeah, you'll get to a point sometimes where you're like, craving sweets or craving this, and it's probably because you're lacking some of the micronutrients, like if you
Definitely.
Yeah, if you want chocolate, probably micronutrients are lacking from eating too clean.
So my brother-in-law, Brian Juan, he actually told me about keto.
Keto diet.
Yeah, the keto diet. And you guys know about that. It's high in fat, protein, and cutting out all carbs, sugar.
Yeah, very low, like 25 grams a day allowed.
Is he still doing it, or he just tried it?
No. We were both doing it. So he told me about it, and I did it, and I lost a ton of weight.
Oh, I bet.
But the best part about it is that I was never hungry.
Really?
Yeah. So that's what was weird, because you were eating such a high amount of fat. Fat is not the enemy, right? Fat actually sustains you. You don't feel hungry. It's when you start eating those simple carbs that you start crashing and you feel like you're starving. So you have to eat again. And you're doing this all day. That's where I was doing this, and I gained so much weight. I was like 220 for a while. And,
wow. Okay.
And then once I realized, educated myself on how bad sugar is and how good fat can be, my life has gotten a lot more balanced.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's what it is. It's just too much, like my wife would say, Sarah would say, a little amount of everything is okay.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Jay will attest to this. Ultimately, it's law of thermodynamics. It's what calories go in versus out. It's not so much.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what it is.
Yeah. Like one gram, a body fat, 1 pound is roughly 3,300 calories. So regardless of what you eat, if you cut that a week, you could potentially lose a pound of weight.
No doubt.
Yeah. So regardless of the diet type, regardless of, because there's so many
coming from.
Yeah, there's so many fad diets.
If you're overweight out there and you skip a meal, it's not going to harm you. It's probably going to benefit you.
Well,
we can all afford to skip a meal here and there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is calories in versus calories out. That's how
as simple as that.
There's no science behind it. So everyone's like, oh, well, I can't eat carbs. Why? I mean, if you meet your caloric needs, I mean, to a point before possibly like peak week, you're still going to drop weight because you're in a deficit, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you're burning more than you're eating.
Yep.
So I think that's where
it's simple science.
It is.
It's
really law of thermodynamics.
Yeah.
It's calories in versus out. And then to a certain point, when you want to peak and you want to look even better, well, then maybe certain foods will make you hold water or inflammation. But for the most part, losing weight is purely like lap band. The reason why you're losing weight because you only have a caloric intake of 800 calories. Well, anybody at 800 calories, I'm sure their basal metabolic is a lot higher than 800. So they're gonna lose not even working out just because calorically you're so low.
Just surviving.
Yeah.
So this has been a really super interesting conversation. And I know we can go on for hours.
Sure.
I'm sure we can. And I want to do a deeper dive, invite you back.
Oh, sure.
Yes,
awesome.
So many little subjects, but we got a good overview of your life and your knowledge. And so I appreciate that a lot. Is there anything you'd like to plug or talk about before we close out here?
No, just like I said, anything's possible. If you want to do anything in life, if you want it that bad, and trust me, right now being I would say an aspiring entrepreneur again, there's a lot of risk and compromises. There's days I'm sitting at home going, damn, am I making the right decision? But something inside of me says, you know what? You're so passionate about the health and fitness stuff. You've helped so many people and you haven't got paid anything doing it yet. So it's a calling. And I like it so much that it reminds me of when we first started racing. So anything, there's never a guarantee. But if you want it that bad, I'm sure you'll find a way to do it. Yeah. And as we network, it's just more and more people are sharing you that, you know what, why don't you do this for a living? I'm like, that's pretty much what I want to do. I don't think I can work on cars for my entire life. I can't, it's, I'm 46, so it's, age is coming. So what can I do to help people? I like.
You look 36, by the way. So,
so that's, I think that's what we want to create more of like a cause, more of a
movement.
Movement. Yeah, just to inspire that like the 40 is the new, is
30s.
or even younger. There's many people when they're I don't have time, or I'm too tired, or
You gotta make time.
Yeah, you gotta make time. I mean, you got 24 hours in a day, right?
How many Netflix specials are you watching?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's what you decide to use your time with, and once that time is gone, it's gone forever.
It is.
You got to make good choice of your time. No money will buy it back. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you again,
thank you.
Gary Kubo. He's just a class act. And, I didn't mention this, but I put this here because you were coming on the show, just like I was wearing this shirt.
Mike McGill.
Yeah. And then the Vans.
Yep.
For skating and racing.
There you go.
And now health and wellness and fitness and all that good stuff. So we'd love to have you back. Thank you for joining us on the Model Minorities podcast.